Shalom, shalom. All honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakar Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and teachers of Great Millstone for teaching me this 100% truth about our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, and the true reason why he's coming back, which is to save the elect of the house of Israel from their enemies and those that hate them, and to take over the earth and universe, which was given to him by the mighty, mighty Yahweh himself, the Ancient of Days, wherein our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, will establish righteousness throughout the whole earth and universe forever under the kingdom of the heaven of the Israelites. Shalom, Akim and Akwa. We one day closer to the kingdom. Back at you with a quick lesson with more shameful spewing on the glory of Esau, Edom, and all the trickery that he has been up to. Let me start off with reading out of the book of Psalms, Psalm 140 and 8. Grant not, O Yahweh, the desires of the wicked, further not his wicked device, lest they exalt themselves. As for the head of those that compass me about, let the mischief of their own lips cover them. Now, I've been telling y'all time and time again, bringing out that U.S. American government, a.k.a. Babylon the Great, they spy network is tremendous. The CIA. That's what's going down with the little situation that just happened in the nation's capital with the National Guards. If you ain't up on the news, you better start paying attention. Right? Because they trying to instigate the people into civil war, which is prophetic, right? Matter of fact, it might be, you can go to Isaiah 19, right? Let's see. You can go to Isaiah 19 and 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, because through the Spirit, America also is Egypt too. From having us in bondage, and also because they worship their gods. And they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city and kingdom against kingdom. Esau's house is divided. So they got to try to figure out a way that they can bring about martial law and then set up these containment camps, detention centers, right? So they can forward their progress with the New World Order. Order Ab KO, right? They're going to present the problem, get the reaction from the people, and then come with the solution. And what they doing now, what we're going to see in this Danny Halfon podcast, it's nothing new under the sun with these boys. They got the same playbook, right? Let's get one more. Let's go to 13. Yeah. Let's see what it say. The judgment on the day of Yahweh, right? That's what's going to happen over there. They trying to create the scenarios for the people to go against each other. Civil war, right? But it's the Lord's plans. What's that, Isaiah 49? Right. Let's go back. You can check out Isaiah 13 for yourself. For all you sisters that love cleaving to Egypt. Look at that. I just gave you the title, The Day of Yahweh. Judgment on the day of Yahweh, right? Isaiah 13 and 11, and I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease. It's Esau, Edom. And I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. Drop down to 14. The point going to be in 15 and 16. And they shall be as a chased roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall run They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through. So all you Israelites, so-called Native Americans, African Americans, and Latinos that's cleaving to this system and cleaving to Esau, Edom, the modern day so-called white man, the military, y'all finna be done. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. The economy crashing. Soon, 2nd Ezra 15, starting at about 14, gonna be in full effect. In America too, it's already happening worldwide. Let's go back. Psalms 140. We can start at 1. Deliver me, O Yahweh, from the evil man. Who is it? So-called modern-day white man. Because once we play this podcast and see what they've been up to, there's no denying it. The son of perdition has been revealed. Preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. Seems like the person who was the lone wolf in this incident was trained by who? The CIA. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Told you, they the same ones that's funding all these little proxy terrorist groups that they forming and support to do their dirty work to overthrow countries, governments that don't approve what they wine. Who don't want to drink that Babylonian wine? They got something for you. The CIA coming at you. This guy was helping them in Afghanistan. Verse 4, keep me, O Yahweh, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man who have purposed to overthrow my goings. Now let's get a couple more before we play this clip, right? Future prophecies. Let me go down to 50. Shalaki Israel. There it is. Because this is what's going to happen. Jeremiah 50:23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? Now they've been going around bullying all kind of nations, especially those who want the same color as them. We'll put it like that. How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? These other nations are hip to all these little secret operations the CIA been doing. You finna be exposed and continue to be exposed. I'll lay the snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon. Since y'all like putting snares and traps for people. Coming up with shit through propaganda, psychology, chemical warfare, these made-up terrorist groups, and thou was not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against Yahweh. This next verse talking about the Maccabees. Yeah. Verse 29. Call together the archers against Babylon, which is America. All ye that bend the bow, camp against it round about. That's what they doing right now, making plans through the BRICS. With Russia, they mirroring what America usually do. Supply all their allies with weapons so they can go at their enemies. Call together the archers against Babylon. All ye that bend the bow, soon come. It's going to be Chinese and Russian military weapons in the Western Hemisphere, mainly in the South America. Call together the archers against Babylon, all ye that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she have done, do unto her. Now they gonna go all the way back to Cuba. They was just going around killing innocent women and children and men just to incite the people to have a reason to go to war. Let's read that part again. Shalaki Israel. Recompense her according to her work. According to all that she have done, do unto her. Now all these little proxy wars that's been started through the CIA, which is a part of the American government, You got people that helped them in those countries residing in this country right now, fulfilling this prophecy. We're going to go to it right after I finish reading this. I'm going to read it again. Call together, Jeremiah 50 and 29. Call together the archers against Babylon. All ye that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work. According to all that she hath done, do unto her. For she hath been proud against Yahweh, against the Holy One of Israel. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith Yahweh. Let's go jump over to 51. Jeremiah 51 and 2. Look at the title. Babylon judged for sins against Israel. This is all for the controversy of Zion, people. Future. And it's starting to happen. It just happened in Washington, D.C. And will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land. For the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. But it's created by your own government. The CIA created these monsters. Just remember that. Let's get this fanners. Zoor.
Strong's H2114. Zur.
Zur. To be strange. Be a stranger. To be estranged. Strange, another stranger. Foreigner, an enemy. That's it right there. Right? He said again. Hold up. Let's jump down to 51. Jeremiah 51 and 7. Babylon have been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. Now, you went over to these people countries from Afghanistan to Libya, Syria, Sudan. They currently working in Sudan through them Israelis and the UAE. Right? Haiti, Venezuela. You get all these little proxy armies who use these people in them nations. And then when you're done with them, you let them move to America. They mad. They say this guy traveled all the way from the state of Washington to D.C. just to pop 2 National Guardsmen. That don't sound right. Sound like a PSYOP setup. They got to create the chaos, the fear, to make y'all say, we need more government tightening. We need more restrictions on the people. Babylon have been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. Let's jump down. Jump down to 12. Set up a standard upon the walls of Babylon. Make the watch strong. Set up the watchmen. That's what we doing. Prepare the ambushes. For Yahweh hath both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. Now they got over 800 military bases all around the world. CIA operating out of most of them, training up these foreigners to become enemies of Babylon the Great. And guess what they at? You see how he tried to blame it? He gonna try to blame it on Biden. Biden let these people in. Nah, you let them in, buddy, too. Here go the point. Yahweh of hosts, verse 14. Yahweh of hosts have sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men, as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. He gonna fill this nation up. You got all kind of foreigners whose homeland has been destroyed by who? Babylon the Great. Let's get this before we play this podcast, because it's lengthy. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that may otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips to balance in favor of fair use. Fair use is in full effect. This is for educational purposes only. This is a Danny Halfong show, right? Shalaki. Now let's check this out. Hold on. Let me get 2 more. Same for spewing on your glory. They making their own tongue to fall upon themselves. But at the same time, let's get this. 2nd Ezra 15. This is what they're trying to lead to, sedition of men, right? If you got time, read 2nd Ezra 15 and start at 14 and go down to 20, right? But this one I'm finna get, hold on. I'm finna get 2nd Ezra 6 and 28. Second Ezra 6 and 28. Your government is wicked. The one y'all support so much. 2/3. I'm gonna throw it at 27. For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. They've been lying to y'all. Right? As for faith, it shall flourish, corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which have been so long without fruit, shall be declared. And the Lord is exposing these hypocrites. Let's go to Isaiah 47. Esau, Edom. Isaiah 47 and 10. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Secrets. They got all them secret little agencies. The CIA especially. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. Now, whenever somebody in the government do something, whether it be from the Republicans or the Democrats, and the CIA don't like it, they finna change all this shit. Therefore, verse 11, therefore shall evil come upon thee. Thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee. Thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Here go the point. With all that secret shit y'all be doing, laying up snares and traps for not only the children of Israel, but for all the other nations too, with your wickedness, because you covered fields, right? Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be, thou shalt be able to profit. If so be, thou mayest prevail. And they use that propaganda, right? They prop up an enemy. They create an enemy. Prop up a false narrative to the nation, to the people, to the masses, and y'all fall for it each time. Look at 9/11. The reason why they did, what was that? Desert Storm, right? All these false narratives, the propaganda that y'all been coming up with, that playbook is old. Everybody see what y'all doing now, right? Verse 13, thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. And throughout the scriptures, it's nothing but doom and gloom for the so-called modern-day white man, which is Esau, Edom, in the Holy Scriptures. Fair use is in full effect. This is for educational purposes only. Now check this out. They continue to be exposed for the wicked that they are.
How this gift helps my husband shave his body without making a mess. My husband used to leave hair all over the bathroom counter and
Quite. The chickens have come home to roost. As you may know, 2 National Guardsmen were tragically shot near the White House by an Afghan national with ties to the CIA. I'm just going to pull up the story of what exactly happened, and we're going to go through the CIA ties together. Afghan nationals in custody after shooting of 2 National Guard members near the White House. An Afghan national has been accused of shooting 2 West Virginia National Guard members just blocks from the White House in a brazen act of violence at a time when the presence of troops in the nation's capital and other cities around the country has become a political flashpoint. Kash Patel and Mayor Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C. said the Guard members were hospitalized and in critical condition after the shooting. Now, the suspect who's in custody was also shot in wounds that were believed to be non-life-threatening, according to law enforcement officials. Now, the 29-year-old suspect is an Afghan national entering the U.S. in 2021 under Operation Allies Welcome, which was a Biden administration program that evacuated tens of thousands of Afghans after the U.S. was withdrawn and had to leave Afghanistan. Some of these actually were tied to very nefarious and ugly activities in Afghanistan. The New York Times now have admitted, including Daniel Radcliffe, the current CIA director under Donald Trump, that there are CIA-backed ties to this suspect. The CIA and Afghan intelligence officials said that the shooter had been part of an Afghan partner force and supported by the agency in the southern province of Kandahar. The Afghan man accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday had worked with the CIA-supported military units in Afghanistan. The CIA said that the shooter had been part of a CIA-backed Afghan partner force in Kandahar, the southern province of Afghanistan, a stronghold of the Taliban insurgency during the 2-decade war. After American forces withdrew from Afghanistan in August of 2021 and gave way to Taliban rule, the suspect was brought to the United States as part of a program to evacuate Afghans who had worked with the agency, according to John Ratcliffe. And of course, this is becoming very partisan. Right? In the wake of the disastrous Biden withdrawal from Afghanistan, the Biden administration justified bringing the alleged shooter to the United States. So this is being all framed as a Biden administration problem. However, the issue with that is manifold, primarily that this program and this war spanned many administrations, and the CIA, as you all know, is in fact nonpartisan. And now here are the insane ties that we have to talk about here of this shooter. Here he is in the Kandahar strike force, Mr. Ranmullah. According to this person, the DC shooter has a crazier story than previously thought. He was directly CIA-led. He was not just a collaborator. He was part of a CIA-led task force that massacred civilians and medical workers. Those who know him had said that he was troubled by what he had done mentally. Well, I'll say that to do that to civilians and to medical workers will cause you trouble. There are 5 militias, says the Human Rights Watch, that come under nominal control of the Afghan intelligence agency, the NDS, and do not fall under ordinary chains of command within the NDS, nor under normal Afghan or U.S. military chains of command. Rather, they are trained, equipped, and recruited, overseen by the CIA. Human Rights Watch also says that, quote, a lack of transparency for command, control, rules of engagement, and policy framework guided these strike forces. And here's who they are. So this is the Kandahar strike force, where he operated in during this horrific war that the United States is still very much involved with, even though it withdrawn, it still has forces there operate. So the NDS-03 Kandahar Strike Force operated in Afghanistan, the southern region, out of the former compound of the late Taliban leader Mullah Omar, commonly referred to as Mullah Omar's house, in U.S. forces as Camp Gecko. The late brother of former President Hamid Karzai Ahmad reportedly oversaw the operations until his assassination in 2011. And here is more from Human Rights Watch. The forces that carried out these attacks, these horrific special forces raids on medical facilities in 2018-2019, were the Kandahar Strike Force and other special forces units, all of which are supported and sometimes accompanied by U.S. forces. During kill and capture operations, the forces involved assaulted, in some cases killed medical staff, assaulted or killed accompanying civilian non-combatant caregivers, and caused damage to facilities. So this is who this person was. This is very serious. But it goes even deeper than that, because as you remember, the United States was negotiating for peace, right? Supposedly a withdrawal from Afghanistan very a long time ago under the first Trump administration, and it failed. We have to say that effort failed. But there was a lot of talk about these kind of CIA-backed militias and what exactly was going to happen to them, because the CIA had trained these forces to commit the most heinous of acts in Afghanistan at the behest of the United States in its dirty war on the so-called Taliban. And if cut loose by the CIA, says a report at the time by the Cost of War at Brown University, militias, quote, may be reborn as private armies or security guards in the service of powerful individuals. Okay, powerful individuals. How about powerful intel agencies? What about those? But let's go now to the details here about these local militias. They were first viewed as a temporary solution, but they eventually became a permanent fixture of secret CIA operations in the country, sometimes acting without knowledge of U.S. diplomats or Afghan military leaders. Not much is known about specific groups the CIA directed at the time, the best known of which was the Coast Protection Force, not the Kandahar Strike Force. In 2010, journalist Bob Woodward wrote the CIA's army consisted of 3,000 Afghan fighters, but since then the number has ballooned. The cost force alone may number as high as 10,000. President Donald Trump further expanded. So this is Donald Trump under his administration. Further expanded the CIA's paramilitary role in Afghanistan using local militias for hunt and kill operations. Speaking at a security conference, Mike Pompeo, who was a CIA director at the time, authorized the CIA to take risks that would make it faster and more aggressive. And every minute we have to be focused on crushing our enemy. So CIA-linked forces have been accused of numerous abuses, including carrying out summary executions and torture. An investigation by the New York Times documented one case in which CIA-backed forces shot two brothers in view of their families in the Nangarhar province. The forces handcuffed and hooded two brothers, and after a brief interrogation as their wives and children watched, both were dragged away and executed in a corner of a bedroom. These are the kinds of people that the United States so just willingly not only lets into the U.S. to commit this horrific act against the National Guard, but it's obvious that the United States, the CIA, they want to protect these forces. This has implications far beyond just what happened on that day that the National Guard came under fire. This gentleman who is accused supposedly drove all the way from the state of Washington across the country and brought a revolver that he ended up firing on a National Guards person and then killed the person who tried to help. We have to remember Operation Cyclone by the CIA, which was the covert program to arm the Mujahideen. Operation Cyclone was its most expensive, the CIA's covert military assistance program during the Cold War, and it lasted for 10 years, 1979 to 1989, and it had a simple aim: bleed the Soviet Union and Afghanistan like the U.S. had been bled in Vietnam. And this is exactly what Zbigniew Brzezinski, the national security advisor at the time, said. In 1986, the CIA decided it was time to enter the Mujahideen, the war, and give the Mujahideen a real shot to turn the tide against the Soviet military, providing FIM-92 Stinger anti-aircraft missiles, which were a game-changing addition to their arsenal at the time. They came equipped with infrared homing guidance systems, meaning they could seek the heat source of an aircraft and destroy it while in the air. Soviet helicopters and jets, once uncontested rulers in the sky, found themselves outmatched. And the CIA didn't cut corners when supplying these missiles. Each cost $38,000 in the late 1980s, with a range of up to 8,000 meters and a speed of Mach 2, which was fast at the time. Although, of course, we know that Russia and other countries have surpassed those kind of speeds. The CIA wasn't acting alone in the arms bonanza. You had Saudi Arabia, you had Pakistan with their intelligence forces, and of course, their Wahhabist ideology and extremist ideologies that were helping to foment this kind of uprising against the Soviet Union. From high-tech Stinger missiles to intricate financial networks and calculated political maneuverings, Operation Cyclone was anything but simple. It was a carefully orchestrated play, with each country pulling strings in the shadow without an end game, each with its end game in sight. So again, we have to remember that this was a dirty war, okay? The final fallout of which led to a power vacuum. The Soviet Union indeed had to withdraw from the country of Afghanistan, but what came afterward was essentially what we still see in many ways up until 2020. It was the United States who left a power vacuum there through its covert operations, and the United States re-entering and reoccupying in the year 2001 to essentially, quote unquote, finish the job of destroying that country, plundering it, destabilizing, and leaving it in the hands of so-called armed groups that it supports. Of course, that didn't happen because the U.S. Turned against the Taliban, because the Taliban turned against them, and that's why there is still so much tension between them. The end of Operation Cyclone led to a power vacuum. The Mujahideen didn't disband. They splintered into different groups, eventually giving rise to factions like the Taliban. The operation left Afghanistan awash in weapons, some of which ended up in groups that would later become Al-Qaeda. the U.S. had to reckon with these unintended consequences during its Afghanistan invasion and subsequent counter-terror.
Theft or vandalism? Titan's virtual security officer stops criminals in their
operations. This is the root of what is going on here. Of course, this person has allegedly committed the act too. We can't even be sure about this. There of course needs to be an independent investigator, but what do you have? You have those who have perpetrated crimes like the one I just outlined, where the alleged shooter participated in the most horrific US-backed, CIA-backed war crimes, and now the investigation is being done by those who organized the war crimes. And even the CIA, Ratcliffe, he's admitting that he was a CIA asset and he committed some of the most horrific crimes imaginable during this 20-year occupation. Now, we also can't dismiss the fact that the United States' intelligence apparatus, its military apparatus, is actually not afraid, mind you, it's actually not afraid of going incredibly hard for the purpose of destabilization and for the purpose of war. It is willing to do exactly what happened on U.S. soil in order to justify war. And of course, there are numerous instances of this. Let's talk about Operation Northwoods, shall we? Let me pull up what that was, because not many people understand that the U.S. military itself wanted to provoke war with Cuba by what? Killing innocent people in the 1960s. They wanted to kill innocent people and commit acts of terrorism in the U.S. to create public support for a war against Cuba. So we have to ask ourselves, if the United States in the 1960s during the Cold War was willing to sacrifice Americans like the ones who were sacrificed during this horrific incident targeting the National Guard, which has been used by the Trump administration as a weapon to conduct another kind of war, a war on Americans, which we have been seeing since before Trump, maybe more covertly, but now the Trump administration has outwardly declared war and has tried to use the National Guard as a weapon in his own kind of partisan political game. Now, those chickens have come home to roost in a big way, because this long history, which Donald Trump is now a major party to in both administrations, this long history of using these kind of attacks to justify further interventionism, militarization. You have thousands now of military service members in the U.S. on the streets of Washington, D.C. right now. It all fits into this overall program of stifling dissent, suppressing people's, raising fears in order to suppress people's civil liberties, and then, of course, to justify war abroad. So Operation Northwoods was all about creating this environment. The plans reportedly included the possible assassination of Cuban emigres, sinking boats of Cuban refugees on the high seas, hijacking planes, blowing up a U.S. ship, and even orchestrating violent terrorism in U.S. cities. Sound familiar? This just happened in Washington, D.C. An act of terrorism was committed in a U.S. city targeting U.S. National Guards members, who, mind you, was targeted supposedly, allegedly, by somebody who drove thousands of miles across from Washington State to here after working for years, literally years, in the CIA-backed Kandahar Strike Force unit, which, mind you, this person who allegedly did this shooting was recruited at like the age of 14, like a child soldier. This is how far, how many lengths the United States' war apparatus will go to get what it wants. The military brass in the United States even contemplated causing U.S. military casualties, writing, "We could blow up a ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba, and casualty lists in U.S. papers would cause a helpful wave of indignation." So this has all come out. The truth has come out about these kind of horrific operations that were planned. And the Bay of Pigs operation was a major failure at this time. And of course, you have the Cuban Missile Crisis, which almost led us to World War III. So we know that the United States is no stranger to literally planning the kind of thing that happened in Washington,